Hi, welcome to Rubino Art Gallery. It's the 11th of January and a little bit before 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I have a sketch ready over here. It's basically a color tester doodle sketch, come sketch, and I have a palette ready here. I have some brushes that I have used for my palette prep that I'm going to use for this painting, and I'm basically going to be making an abstract today, just expanding on this idea that I sketched over here. So I'm not 100% sure where this is going to, but I have this basic idea that I've sketched over here, and I'm just going to leave it over here. I will have my palette is comprised of yellows, different shades of yellow, cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, yellow ochre, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and deep yellow, and then raw umber, and then black. So I'm going to leave that over here, and I'm going to start with a big flat brush here and dip it into the raw sienna. Raw umber right here. It's rather very thick, so I want a more watery effect. I will take a little bit of water, just like maybe half a tablespoon, and drop it in there and mix it up. Right, so I wanted it somewhere in this direction. I'm going to move this a little bit over here. So, big strokes. I'm using an angle brush, which makes a thin line as well as a broad stroke. So I can make a thinner line and a broader stroke with it. This is an angle flat brush. So I have this after that I'll put this brush away and pick up there's some other color on this brush. This is cadmium that I want to use. I'm going to clean it with some water and a piece of paper towel. You can also use rags. So here's the deep yellow. Actually, the deep yellow has become kind of thick, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in it from a cup and with a tablespoon, mixing it around. So see this line that was over here, just kind of follow the same pattern if I want to, or I can deviate from it. I have some lemon yellow here that I'm using angled flat brush, and I will apply this flat lines. That's some of the lines that you see over here. Some of it looks almost like the cadmium, but it is actually lemon. So Some of the paint that I've applied is already, it's kind of wet, and if I take another brush, load the brush, and paint at the edge of it, I'm going to get a wet into wet effect, like the one that's kind of created over here. And okay, I guess I can start from this angle. In order to create more of a wet into wet effect, I need to make it a little more watery, or basically I'm just dipping my brush, I just dipped my brush in some water, and the color is charging into the lemon a little bit, and as it given a little bit of time, it blends in a little bit more. Okay, I'll pick up my another angle brush that I have, and I have this well is basically a little bit of burnt sienna. It's a little darker shade of burnt sienna, but I'll use that, add a little bit of water in it. This is more watery, and I could use some of that over here as well. Outline that, deviates a little bit from that previous design, but I never meant to follow it strictly in any case. I can make my choice to create something different as I go along. I'm glazing a little bit. Glazing means I'm covering the previous laid out paint with the next coat, and that means one paint on top of another. That's glazing. This is deep yellow in this well, and I'm going to use some of that deep yellow to maybe outline this over here. Create some lines here. I'm using a round brush, and the tip, I'm creating these fine lines with the tip. So I mean, I can go along the edge if I want to, but sometimes I don't want to do that. I mean, I want to leave a little bit of the white. This is creating a nice, interesting pattern, so I'm just going to create this pattern. Colors can be very relaxing and therapeutic, and using paint and color is a very calming mental activity as well. So I have this pattern over here. Maybe I can just kind of repeat a little bit over here. Overlapping. and that some of that color drags on to the other colors. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this, again, the burnt umber, and it's kind of wet, very liquidy, so it's creating more color charging. It's creating more color charging than I was aiming at initially in this area. It's getting a little untidy. Let me tidy that up a little bit. It gives me an idea. Can go a little bit like that. Some of the brush has kind of dried, and it creates those the dry effect over here. Drags this paint on the white and then drags on into the brown. Okay, you see this area is quite empty. This area is quite empty. I want to create more interest over here. Okay, so I'm going to take the brush, the big round brush, and dip it into the yellow ochre paint, and see how it drags. It leaves some white paper, and that's basically, it becomes like a dry brush technique over here. And now I can make a thin line, and I left some of that line out. I can still use the same yellow ochre and do something, maybe fill this area with it, and still keep on dragging it, creating that dry brush technique. Tip it out the edge. I hope this thing is getting recorded. Okay, so now I want to take burnt umber, the dark. Hi, welcome to Rubino Art Gallery. It's the 11th of January and a little bit before 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I have a sketch ready over here. It's basically a color tester doodle sketch, come sketch, and I have a palette ready here. I have some brushes that I have used for my palette prep that I'm going to use for this painting, and I'm basically going to be making an abstract today, just expanding on this idea that I sketched over here. So I'm not 100% sure where this is going to, but I have this basic idea that I've sketched over here, and I'm just going to leave it over here. I will have my palette is comprised of yellows, different shades of yellow, cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, yellow ochre, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and deep yellow, and then raw umber, and then black. So I'm going to leave that over here, and I am going to start with a big flat brush here and dip it into the raw sienna. Raw umber right here. It's rather very thick, so I want a more watery effect. I will take a little bit of water, just like maybe half a tablespoon, and drop it in there and mix it up. Right, so I wanted it somewhere in this direction. I'm going to move this a little bit over here. So, big strokes. I'm using an angle brush, which makes a thin line as well as a broad stroke. So I can make a thinner line and a broader stroke with it. This is an angle flat brush. So I have this after that I'll put this brush away and pick up there's some other color on this brush that this is cadmium that I want to use. I'm going to clean it with some water and a piece of paper towel. You can also use rags. So here's the deep yellow. Actually, the deep yellow has become kind of thick, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in it from a cup and with a tablespoon, mixing it around. So see this line that was over here, just kind of follow the same pattern if I want to, or I can deviate from it. I have some lemon yellow here that I'm using angled flat brush, and I will apply this flat lines. That's some of the lines that you see over here. Looks like that looks nice. Some of the color is charging over here. Okay, I'm not too happy with what's going on here, but I can start here and drag it, create that dry brush effect, join the two over here, and make it neat. Now, there's some paint, and if you want to, either the brush drags on the paper, or you can make it, clean it up a little bit on the paper towel, and then you can drag it, and then it creates that dry brush effect. Right, I've got black going on over there. I can put some black over here, and make it go on the edge, flat, thinner as we go forward. I'm doing this with an angle brush. Darker here, thinner out there. I'm going to make the this more neat. And join it together. Right. There's still a lot of space over here in this part of the painting. There's nothing going on over there. I want to create interest. We'll take the flat brush that I had, the rust color, the burnt umber as it is called, and I can fill it up with that using the angle brush. And if it becomes untidy along the way, I can just go over it carefully and make it neat. Blend it in. Definitely do something over here as well. As you go along, you can think about what exactly does this look like? Or maybe it expresses some emotion, some idea, or something that you've seen somewhere. It's just can represent something, or it may not represent something. And that's up to you to decide how you want to name it and what you want to, how you want to think of it. I see that there's some color that's spilled over here. I'm going to take a paper towel, put it in clean well, a nice tray, and kind of wipe it, and then lift the color. And then when it dries, I'll just go over it lemon yellow all over again, just that edge, or just all across. So there's some, this area needs more interest, more complication. I can either do it with a smaller, thinner brush. I have all these brushes over here that I can use. Maybe use another smaller flat brush. I can dip that in, the raw umber that I have here, and yeah, I want to be careful over there. And so yeah, I can create these thinner lines. And they're kind of muted because it's watery and not very thick. So the way I'm dragging the brush, I'm making broad strokes as well as thin, narrow strokes with it. So it's creating kind of a pattern of its own. You don't want your paintings to be symmetrical, because then I see that I've touched it, but I can fix that. Some of it is glazing over that, some of it is overlay, and because it's dragging, it's creating that dry brush effect. And creating, it's kind of like a ropey kind of effect. Maybe like a streamer hanging from the ceiling. This is too white. Maybe I can fill that up a little bit. Make it less white. See, when I drag it, all this is quite interesting because some of it is glazing, some of it is dragging that paint over it. somebody was dragging the other paint and creating this effect. If you like an effect, go for it and incorporate that into the rest of the painting. See, you want to work with some watery paint, you also want to work with some thicker paint. If you're only working with watery paint, the painting is going to be kind of rather flat. But if you're also working with thicker paint, then you will create this variation, you will create this drama. How the thicker paint edges on with a thinner paint that I'm applying. There were already a number of techniques that I was using over there. The dry brush, the thicker paint of black that I laid on, and then now some of this overlay glazing that I'm doing here. This area where it is yellow, it appears to create a different shade. Or the area where it's white, it creates a different gradual shading. Right. So I'm going to put this away. I'm going to pick up the paint. Oops. Okay. So there's some green on it because I had green on my stand. I'm gonna make sure I completely wipe it. And actually, this was my brush for the lemon. I'm going to use that. Cleaned it up with a paper towel. That's okay, I can always edit. Okay, just almost done, Nazim. Alright, I'm dipping it in the yellow lemon, and then I will use the angled brush, fill out some of this area. I should actually be going in the other direction because there was, how did the black get in there? Because it touched that black over there, but that's fine. I can make it, incorporate that in there and just leave it in there, not worry about it because it's charging, it's looking nice. In fact, I can do some of the same over here and go there. See, there you go, the black dragging onto the rust that was overlaid. Okay, fill that up with yellow, glazing going on over here, some glazing. How I twist the brush, notice how I'm twisting the brush here. I twist the brush, use the edge of it. I'm using a flat area first, and then I'm twisting the brush up here, and then I just use a thin line that goes in whatever direction I want it to go into. Remember this, I touched it, I can fix that, blend it in. There again, I'm just twisting the brush. So there's this gray and there's this yellow. Either I can blend them in together or I can just leave it like that. Okay. But I still feel, you know, there's dark here, there's light here, but that's fine. There's no problem with that. Except there's got to be some more interest in this area, and I'm choosing to take the burnt umber brush and dip it in. Burnt umber paint that I have, is kind of thicker. Okay, I touched it again, and I didn't mean to touch it, so I can fix that. Right. All right. And so there's the burnt umber, and I want to do something with the burnt umber over here so that it becomes a little more interesting. So maybe just part of it, just maybe put some, like, since we were working with streamers, there was a discontinuity over here. Yeah, I just want to go, just kind of touch it over there. I don't want to make it, I want to go dry there, patch it up, leave it patchy, lift my brush, just kind of create this. Okay, there's some brown that I can, burnt umber that I can use over here. Patchy effect over here, a little dragging. So how I can create all these effects just with the same brush. See how now I'm touching it, I can create these tiny lines over here. I can create these tiny lines. And some of them are curved. If I wanted to create a straight line, I could also do that. Now I want to go like that again. I'll start from, I don't want to, yeah, just want to make sure I'm not creating something too uniform. I want to make it more asymmetrical, something that is more fluid, more wild, raggedy, just not something that is just too even, too familiar, too predictable. So I'm dragging this and creating this dry brush effect. And you see that the light, afternoon light, is hitting part of the paper over here. Actually, I can move the paper here. I'm not using any artificial light currently. I'm just, so you can see more of the painting in the light. And this was what we started off with. And this is what I painted, just kind of